बाह्यस्पर्शे स्वसक्तात्मा विन्दत्यात्मनि यत्सुखम् स ब्रह्मयोगयुक्तात्मा सुखमक्षयमश्नुते ये हि संस्पर्शजा भोगाः दुःखयोनय एव ते आद्यन्तवन्तः कौन्तेय न तेषु रमते बुधः शक्नोति हैव यः सोढुम् प्राक्शरीरविमोक्षणात् कामक्रोधोद्भवम् वेगम् स युक्तः स सुखी नरः योऽन्तः सुखोऽन्तरारामः तथान्तर्ज्योतिरेव यः स योगी ब्रह्मनिर्वाणम् ब्रह्मभूतोऽधिगच्छति. Namaste everyone. I began this session of this webinar 175 on this day of June 14, 2020 with 4 verses from Bhagavad Gita. From chapter 5, verses 21 to 24. These are among many verses in the Gita that talk about happiness. And our theme for this webinar is the happiness that you and I may derive from scriptural study. Shastrananda. There is on one extreme Vishayananda, the happiness that we derive from sense objects. Nobody is totally away from sense objects. Even enlightened people, those who are said to be totally liberated, express much happiness when you serve them some delicious food which may be truly to their liking. Vishayananda is a fact of life, but there is a secret about Vishayananda also. In Panchadashi of Swami Vidyaranya, towards the end, there is a whole chapter called Vishayanande Brahmananda, where Swami Vidyaranya argues that even when we enjoy the happiness through some sense objects, it is actually the happiness of Brahman that is coming reflected through the Vishayas. But generally we say that reflection we need, that reflecting surface of the sense objects we need. If we don't have the sense object with us, we don't know where that bliss of Brahman disappears. As far as we are concerned, we need sense objects. We argue. Well, that's an honest submission for overwhelming majority of people in the world depend upon sense objects for coming in touch with what may be Brahmananda itself, but they need sense objects. So there is Vishayananda, then there is Brahmananda, which is independent of anything and everything. Even the Shastras are not required for those who are established in Brahma. As a shloka of Bhaja Govindam says, Yogarato va bhogarato va sangarato va sanga vihinaha yasya brahmani ramate chittam nandati nandati nandatyeva. If someone's mind is anchored in Brahman, that person, lady or man, just is happy. Whether the person is in yoga or in bhoga, in company or in solitude, and so on and so forth. That Brahmananda of Brahmanishtas is on one extreme, Vishayananda of most people on the earth is at the other extreme. In between, there are a number of ways in which we derive happiness. In our synopsis that we sent for this webinar, we had mentioned a few. For example, we talked about how some people derive happiness by serving others. Seva Ananda. There are some people who are day and night thinking of some social work, reaching out to the poor, the underprivileged, or those who are discriminated against. They go and provide some support. Or it could be just at home. Charity begins at home. Somebody at home is unwell, and this person attends to that sick person without expecting anything in return and derives happiness. We talked about, in the devotional context, bhajana ananda. Now let me hasten to add, as even I will come to Shastrananda, I am not saying that everybody should come to Shastrananda. Some of us have found great happiness in study of scriptures. If some among those who are listening to this webinar do not find scriptural study all that interesting, no problem. You find your own way, but in your own way you may go higher and higher. In fact, there are some people who don't enjoy study by themselves, but they enjoy Shravana. Shrutva anyebhya upasate. There is a line in the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 13. Shrutva anyebhya upasate. They listen to people who speak well and they are very happy. All right. We have Bhajana Ananda, Kirtana Ananda. Then we have, of course, Japa Ananda. There are lots of people who have submitted, who have openly said the name of God or a mantra like Gayatri mantra sends them to great inner bliss. Incidentally, I think it just got over even as I am speaking. Devotees of Satya Sai Baba around the world went on a 24 hours recitation of Gayatri mantra. 8:30 p.m. Indian time to 8:30 p.m. of this date. So 10 minutes back they must have completed. Some people from Pacific time wrote to me that at their end it was 8 a.m. of Saturday to 8 a.m. of Sunday. All right, 24 hours Gayatri. Somebody sent a link to me and I felt very blessed to go to that link, and here I never knew that there is a video and an audio. There is an audio basically with pictures. Sri Satya Sai Baba Swami himself reciting and making devotees repeat Gayatri mantra. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Vargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonaha Prachodayat. Swami chants, devotees repeat, and there is a 1 hour of that audio with beautiful pictures of Baba on the satyasai.org website, which I got to hear, to listen to just 24 hours ago. All right, that is Japa Ananda. Alas, I must say at this point, Japa used to be such a powerful daily routine of lots of people, and these days, I don't know, maybe because of the change of lifestyle, industrialization, all these varied kinds of jobs and professions, people don't have even 5 minutes to spare to sit and do japa, Gayatri, or any other. There was a time people had to do 108 Gayatri Mantra Japa as part of a certain Sandhya Vandana. Then only they would have their breakfast and then get going to work. But now that number is reducing. Perhaps you and I can do our bit to get back to a lifestyle where japa is part of our daily life. Then there is puja. In Narada Bhakti Sutra, there is a sutra saying puja dishu anuragaha iti gargaha. A certain rishi says love of God above all is expressed in the form of great taste for worship. In worship, people find happiness. Likewise, we have yoga. All these, in fact, all of us enjoy at times. But depending on our constitution, our temperament, our purva sanskaras, one of them among these would be something that we all the time enjoy. Yoga, for example, many of us may not be doing yoga regularly. I myself don't do it very regularly, but I can share with you. Whenever I do it, I enjoy it. Here this morning I went on the terrace of this little house in Himachal Pradesh at morning 8 a.m. and did yogasana, Surya Namaskar and so on. Wow, it was so blissful. I must admit, yoga is not just asana. As you know, yoga is those 8 limbs, but popularly, asana and pranayama have been highlighted. And both these asana and pranayama give to us certain ananda. So we have numerous ways, and the synopsis did talk, if you remember, of people deriving happiness even in various hobbies: reading, writing, cooking, gardening. People lose their sense of unrest. They feel happy. They feel so much at rest. Art, music, literature, and so on. So on one hand we say this human life is full of distress, sorrow, misery, and so on. But on the other, if you make a list of avenues where you find happiness, it's a very long list. There are so many ways in which we can tap happiness. But now coming to the chosen topic, what is Shastra Ananda? Even as we study the scriptures, in a simple form, I may say the scriptures act like a mirror to what we have within us. The Vedanta, the literature of Upanishads, is uncompromising when it says that true happiness is within us only. Therefore, Shastradhyayana is only to show to us how there is happiness in us. We have in Chandogya Upanishad, Sanat Kumara declaring to Rishi Narada, Devarshi Narada, anything that is finite cannot give you true happiness. Na alpe sukhamasti. Yo vai bhuma tat sukham. Whatever is infinite, that alone is true happiness, he says. And that infinite is no other than one's own true nature as the undivided consciousness or pure awareness. Once thought operates, once the little self arises, full of judgments, full of conclusions, full of labels that we put upon ourselves in ways like I am a winner or I am a loser. These are all labels we put on ourselves. Where is happiness? We lose happiness. If the thoughts are put to their place, we don't say thoughts have to disappear. If we put thought in their proper place without moving away from the main anchor of this watchful awareness, then we are in that bhuma. So is the case with Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. The husband Yajnavalkya says to the wife Maitreyi that people find happiness in a car, in a house, in bank balance, or a lady finds happiness in a husband, or the man finds happiness in his wife, or both of them find some happiness in their son or daughter. So there's a long list given by Yajnavalkya. Everywhere he says, this wife, this husband, this son, this daughter, this bank balance, or this house, none of them is the source of happiness to us by its own virtue. Really, they just are a pretext without our realizing. They actually are an excuse. They are just a media. It's a via media approach. It is the happiness of the Atma that seems to be coming from them. So we are after them. Atmanastu kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati is the punchline that Sri Yajnavalkya gives. My referring to Upanishads would be incomplete if I do not mention the great portion of Brahmanandavalli of Taittiriya Upanishad. Over there, the reference is made to a well-built, young, healthy person, intelligent, learned, and who has spiritual eminence also. And if that is taken as one unit of a healthy young man and having good tastes and so on, Vidwan, 100 times that, then again 100 times of that, go on and on. And to put it in a mathematical expression, 100 is 10 to the power 2 and 10,000 is 10 to the power 4. So 10 to the power 6, 10 to the power, go on like that, 10 to the power of 22, 10 raised to 22, or 1 followed by 22 zeros. 1 followed by 22 zeros. So many times more is the happiness of a Brahmavit. Shrotriyasya cha akamahatasya. When we have a kama and we fulfill it, we feel, I'm so happy, I fulfilled my desire. Brahmanandavalli, Ananda Mimansa of Taittiriya Upanishad says to us that happiness is peanuts. Really, if you were to be free from kama, akamahatasya, shrotriyasya cha akamahatasya, brahmanishtasya, that is so much more, practically infinite. Now, in this webinar, we are not talking of happiness of Brahmanishta, though we made a reference to it. When we study it in the Taittiriya Upanishad or Brihadaranyaka or Chandogya, Ishakena Kata or wherever, or in the Gita, I began chanting. Let me read the 4th verse that I read once more. Yonta sukontar aramaha yaha anta sukha. That person whose happiness is coming from inside. Antar aramaha, his rest, his repose, his relaxation is inside himself, realizing who he is, realizing his true nature. Antar jyotihi, he discovers light within himself. Sayogi Brahma Nirvanam Brahma Bhutaha Adhigachati. Brahmavit Brahmaiva Bhavati. We have Mundaka saying, Gita reflects it saying, Brahma Bhutaha, Brahma Nirvanam, Richati, Adigachati, and so on. So the scriptures talk of it, and we get a vicarious experience. Without actually being Brahmanishta, we as though experience that happiness. Our mind becomes quiet for a while. Those who give discourses, those who listen to discourses are all happy. The mind gets transported to a higher form of happiness. Therefore, Shastradhyayana, which is called Swadhyaya sometimes, which the Upanishads very much emphasize, Swadhyayat ma pramadaha, Swadhyaya pravachanabhyam na pramaditavyam, and so on. This Swadhyaya, this Swa Adhyayana through Shastras, therefore it is Shastradhyayana, gives us a taste of our own inner happiness. Of course, then we learn lessons in life. Life teaches us hard lessons, hard knocks life gives to us, and then we are helped to turn inward. It is thus that the Shastras are as though holding our hand and guiding us slowly towards that true happiness. So nowadays there is increased awareness around the world about how the scriptures like the Upanishads can give to us a glimpse of inner happiness. We had, or he is still alive, he is very active, a certain physician called Dean Ornish. Dean Ornish, Dr. Dean Ornish, MD, was the author of a very famous book, Dean Ornish Program for Reversal of Heart Diseases. Let me try to read out a passage from Dean Ornish. In that very book, I have that with me, in of course this Kindle, so I'm reading it from the Kindle. In fact, I must clarify, Dean Ornish was so drawn to the spiritual wisdom of the East. His guru was Swami Satchidananda, who was a Guru Bhai of Swami Chinmayananji, Swami Satchidananda of Yogaville in Virginia, who originally was from Coimbatore in South India. So Swami Satchidananda made Dean Ornish go for a deep study of the Indian wisdom. So this Dean Ornish, who during his medical college days, when he was a student of medical college, was in a suicidal mood. He writes all that in his book. But his sister was already following Swami Satchidananda, and because his sister said to him, he one day attended a satsang by Swami Satchidananda, and that was a turning point. Rather than committing suicide, ending his life, Dean Ornish found a new meaning and new direction in his life and went on to become a meditator, a yoga practitioner, and he especially became known for prescribing a certain diet which very much resembles the vegetarian diet in India with some changes. And he claimed that it can reverse certain heart diseases. Cholesterol deposit could, rather than increasing, decrease because of this diet. Incidentally, Bill Clinton was one of the patients for Dean Ornish. So in his book, he quotes from another book written by Swami Prabhavananda of the Ramakrishna Mission called Vedanta Society in the Americas. So Swami Prabhavananda and another famous English playwright called Christopher Isherwood had written a book, How to Know God. So from that book, How to Know God, our man Dean Ornish writes, he quotes, let me read. Swami Prabhavananda and the English playwright Christopher Isherwood wrote in 1953, more than 60 years. What did they write? The tyrant who enslaves millions of people, the miser who hoards 1,000 times as much money as he could ever need, the traitor who sells his dearest friend, the murderer, the thief, the liar, and the addict, all these in the last analysis simply want to be safe and happy and at peace. All these want to be safe, happy, and at peace. We seek security in the accumulation of possessions by violence or fraud, by the destruction of our imagined enemies. We seek happiness through sense gratification. See, Vishayananda is touched upon. We seek happiness through sense gratification, through every kind of vanity and self-delusion. We seek peace through the intoxication of various drugs. Dean Ornish noticed in America how a lot of youngsters were going for drugs. So we seek peace through the intoxication of various drugs, and in all these activities, we display an energy of heroic proportions. Heroic proportions. It is tragically misdirected energy. With less effort, we might easily have found union with God had we not been misled by our ignorance. So Vishayananda, our continued embrace of Vishayananda, happiness that comes to us through sense objects, as Dean Ornish would say, is misguided. It is a great case of being misguided, misled by our ignorance. We had this great Bhartrhari who wrote Vairagya Shataka. Over there also he says, alas, most people are attached to sense objects of some kind or the other. But then there are some who are indeed blessed. He calls the blessed people Dhanya. In Sanskrit, the word Dhanya means blessed. Let me recite first half of a shloka in Vairagya Shatakam. Dhanyanam girikandareshu vasatam jyoti param dhyayatam anandashrukanan pibanti shakunaha nishankamankeshayah. A wonderful depiction of a yogi who is meditating on the light within himself. Dhanyanam girikandareshu asatam. They are not in some palatial buildings of the cities, but they are by some hill. They are in some cave. They are in some simple setting in the jungle. Jyoti param dhyayatam. And they are able to, thanks to their immense vairagya, they are able to spend more and more time turning inward and meditating upon that antaparam jyoti, jyoti param dhyayatam. And at times they are so much full of happiness that tears of joy come down their cheeks, ananda ashru kanaha. And even as they are meditating and tears of joy are coming down, falling upon their own lap, couple of birds from nearby come, sit upon their lap and drink those drops of tears, tears of joy of these yogis. What a imagery. Dhanyanam girikandareshu vasatam jyoti param dhyayatam anandashru kanan pibanti shakunaha nishankamankeshayah अस्माकं तु मनोरथोपरचित प्रासादवाटी तट क्रीडा कानन केलि कौतुकजुषाम् आयुः परं नश्यति, आयुः परं क्षीयते. Our life just is getting spent chasing this object or that position, this glitter or that glamour, this name, that fame, or trying to settle score with this enemy or that adversary. Oh, asmakam tu ayuhu kshiyate. By the time we wake up and realize, we find our life is almost over. So he sets up a contrast between those who, guided by Shastra, guided by wisdom, guided by the teachings found in various scriptures. It need not be Gita or Upanishads, Grantha Sahib of Sikhism, Dhammapada of Buddhism, Quran and Bible and the Torah, etc. of various religions. All these religions are beautiful packaging of certain spiritual truths. They are the Shastra. And in the study of the Shastras, either by ourselves or by listening to those who express it well, who do justice to the scriptures, we are made to, or we are empowered, we are helped to get the idea of the happiness within ourselves. In this way, Shastradhyayana, let me simply say, is all about being guided properly. As Dean Ornish said, if we are misguided and misled, then we would be indulging in all those murderous things or such miserliness, like he pointed out. Of course, he quoted from the book of Prabhavananda and Isherwood. As he quoted from that book, How to Know God, he said, collecting money or wealth 1,000 times more than what one needs. And everybody envies such people. Actually, everybody should pity them. Why did they waste time in collecting so much money? After collecting a reasonable amount, they should engage in some spiritual disciplines. But money, and more money. Of course, I don't deny it. Some people who make money pretty soon start using it for social uplift. They share their wealth, they generate employment, they contribute to the well-being of the society. We respect them. But a miser doesn't share with others, just collects for himself. So as Dean Ornish pointed out, how foolish it was all. We would remain foolish if we do not receive guidance from scriptures. And this webinar's special thrust is not that we should study scriptures, we should of course, but to highlight that that study itself can be a source of happiness. Shastra Ananda. Ananda in the Shastra Adhyayana. This is expressed in so many ways. Last quote from Bhagavad Gita, if I may share. In the 17th chapter, Sri Krishna calls daily study as a form of austerity on the plane of speech. Swadhyaya abhyasanam chaiva vangmayam tapa uchyate. It is a vangmaya in the context of vak or vani, tapaha. Three forms of tapaha are mentioned over there: shariram, vangmayam, and manasam. And vangmayam tapaha has been described as marked by swadhyaya. Study the scriptures, enjoy the happiness of which you will get glimpses there. But then Vedo Nityam Adhiyatam, we put it in the synopsis, Taduditam Karma Swanushtiyatam. I must, before concluding, say this. A good number of people who study the scriptures don't do what the scriptures tell them to do. They use that knowledge for paropadesha, to advise people. Paropadesha Panditya gives to them some happiness, some self-esteem, but it is fraught with lot of problems. One must graduate from Paropadesha, advising others, to implementing, living, practicing what one appreciated in the scriptural study. One must study at least some stuff, not with the intention of giving a class on it or advising somebody in those lines, but as the expression goes, Swanta Sukhaya, for one's own happiness, for one's own nishtha, and so on. So these are some simple stuff which we have shared in this webinar. Om Namo Narayanaya. Nama Paramarashibhyo. Nama Paramarashibhyah. Time for questions if there are any. Okay, so we have Vishwanath Bokasam has raised his hand. Let me see if I can enable. I think his microphone disappeared. Can you speak, sir? Oh, here, yes. It says self-muted. I'm unable to unmute the microphone of Shri Bokasam. Ah, yeah. Now it's on. Yeah. Go on, sir. Huh? Again, it got muted.
He must be clicking twice. So it's a toggle switch.
Just click once gently. Otherwise, it goes back to mute. It's very funny. It is dancing. That microphone goes up and down.
He is logged in from two sides.
Oh, it was on for a moment. Just to try gentle. Just once you should click that. Meanwhile, there is a question by Venkateshwaran by text.
It's unmuted, Swamiji. Bokasam.
Really? Okay. Then we will give chance to Vishwanath Bokasam first. Where is he? Can you speak, sir?
I have no question, Swamiji.
Okay. But now that after great effort your microphone is on, something. Okay. Yeah, your microphone is on now. Initially you had raised your hand, it appeared. All right, we don't force anything on anybody.
Yeah, I have a question, Swamiji. I have a question.
You have a question?
Yes.
Who is this?
This is Ramashankar Singh.
Chandrasekhar Singh, what did you say?
Ramashankar Singh.
Okay, let me just see in my dashboard. Yeah, Rama Singh, yeah. So, yeah, I see your mic on. Please go ahead. What your question?
Yeah, you mentioned about Swadhyaya. Is Swadhyaya only limited to religious scripture or any thing related to, say, biology or medicine, anything else? Could that be equally important for the Swadhyaya?
Not those subjects which are not about yourself, which are See, I'll give a gross example first. If you study economics, it is about handling finances. If you study civil engineering, it's about construction and so on. Whereas if you bring it to biology and medicine, well, it comes to the body level, to set right some body problem, But so we would not include them in Swadhyaya. Swadhyaya is little deeper about yourself, which implies setting right certain outlooks, attitudes, or certain false beliefs. Or as I don't want to make it a very long list, it is to remove some fear in you, some regrets, some anxiety. So if the literature you are reading, works on that, then that is Swadhyaya. It can be in English, it can be in the form of a novel by some novelist. Suppose in a portion of Kalidasa's Raghuvamsha or Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, you find some portion which says, oh my, this seems to be addressing my fear, my insecurity. Then that is Swadhyaya, because it, rather than talking about how to build a house or how to save more money, economics or something, it talked about the inner change. Then it is Swadhyaya.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Welcome. So let me see. We have one more question. Chris Chilukuri. Yeah. So there are more participants today. So we request everybody to be a bit brief, to the point. And I should be brief and to the point too. I agree. Yeah. Yes, Radhakrishna.
Hari Om Swamiji. Very simple question, asking the meaning of some Sanskrit words which I don't understand. I see Swami Chinmayananda's picture behind you. As part of my self-joy, we start with prayer in the morning. I recite that the homage to him. And you use the word Brahmavit when you talked about Brahmanishta in the Upanishad, Taittiriya Upanishad. I never could understand the meaning of Namami Chinmayam Devam, Brahmavit Varam. What does that mean, Brahmavit Varam?
Oh. See, Brahmavit is a knower of Brahman. Vid means, vid or with means veti, knows. So Brahmavid is a knower of Brahman. And among knowers of Brahman, someone who is even more eminent is Brahmavid Vara, the best among Brahmavids. So Brahmavid Vara, that is Brahmavitsu, among Brahmavids, Vara, a very eminent one. So let's say there are 10 teachers, and one of them is the best. Then you call that person Shikshaka Vara. By adding Vara, the best among Brahmavids. All right.
Sanjeevani ji has raised her hand. Hingle.
I'll go to S here. Yes. Microphone. Why is her microphone not turning on?
Self-muted.
Sanjeevani ji, can you, I don't know how your screen looks, can you click on your microphone to turn it on? It shows self-muted. It also says muted by an organizer.
Self-muted.
Could you write it by text? I can then see the text. There is some way to write the text. Yes, it's on now. Please speak.
No, Swamiji, I didn't raise my hand. I was just listening actually.
Oh, no problem. Okay. Then nice to have you in the webinar. We go to Sachin Dev Chavan's text question. Sachin Dev Chavan says, I did not get what is Vangmaya. See, Vak in Sanskrit means speech. Vagdevi, Saraswati. And Maya means made of. So Vang Maya is made of speech. Now to study scriptures, we need to use speech, because I recite, I chant, I read the shloka, like I read Gita shlokas. So Vak, Vani, speech is involved. So Bhagavad Gita in this chapter 17 says, those who study the scriptures daily are doing Vangmaya tapas, an austerity marked by engaging speech in scriptural study. That's the idea. So here we'll take one more by Annapurna Pandey. Swamiji, I wanted to know a little more about japa. You mentioned about 108 times japa of stotras like Gayatri and Mahamrityunjaya, among others. What is the deep significance of japa? So there is a wonderful science behind it. Speech and mind are connected. We want to bring our mind to certain balance, to certain poise, to certain calmness. And it's so difficult to have a handle on the mind. To get a handle on the mind is difficult. Therefore, we operate on speech. Please note, speech and mind are very closely connected. So if we are controlling our speech by reciting Gayatri again and again, or we just say Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om in this way, and with some bhakti, with some bhava, if we do, so much the better. The mind becomes calmer. And 108 has been as a multiple of 9, the first multiple of 9 above 100. 9, 18, 27, 36, etc. So above 100, the first one is 108. So it has its own significance. 9 represents Brahman and so on. So there is a lot of literature on japa. I suggest you study it. But basically it is an exercise of speech so that our mind is purified. And we come to, okay, Mahesh. Two sides. Who is both Shastrananda, Vishayananda? Is that a question, or maybe it's just an exclamation? Okay, Shiva from Varanasi has a question. Should we follow any one or many or all of the paths to happiness? Are all with the same effect? I advise that you try out several, then you yourself will know which one works the best for you. So you need to make a combination where what works the best for you, you do more. And what works a little for you, you do less. Don't leave it. Like somebody like me. For me, Shastra Dhyana works the best. So I spend more time on Shastra Dhyana and Shastra Adhyapana. But I do some yoga. I do some prayers. I do some puja. So I do a little of many things. But if you ask me what practice takes lion's share of my sadhana, it is Shastra Dhyana. Because I am made like that. But you may not have been made like that. Somebody else may be made in a different way. Everyone has to find out what is their staple diet, so to say, in spiritual context. Okay, so let me see. Any text question? Okay, Jyoti Verma has. Yes, can you please repeat the title of the book by Christopher Isherwood? The title of the book is How to Know God. How to Know God by two authors, Swami Prabhavananda and Christopher Isherwood. They together wrote. Both of them were in Los Angeles. Both of them were connected with the Hollywood Vedanta Society. They wrote it together, How to Know God. Then Vijay Lakshmi has a question. I think one should enjoy material pleasures too, along with the higher forms of happiness. This contributes to the joy of living, though we may feel guilty at times of wasting our time in such trifles. I think there is no need to feel guilty. What do you advise, Swami? I fully agree with you. I fully agree with you. We have to just watch whether we are overdoing anything. Suppose even people like me, pravachan cars, we need to give a pravachan, a discourse like this, where I am going to criticize Vishayananda. But half an hour before, I feel a hot cup of coffee would be good. Today I drank actually half an hour before this lecture. I took a hot cup of coffee. So nothing, no harm in that. Therefore, no need to feel guilty. But imagine somebody drinking many dozen cups of coffee and various ways. One is become a slave to sense pleasures. That is bad. So one should know what is moderation, what is right measure, and what is excessive, what is not desirable, what might involve sometimes hurting somebody. There are others also involved sometimes. You enjoy and somebody else will be denied that happiness. So then it is not good. Yeah, otherwise, no, not at all. So Vishayananda has place in life, and things in moderation are excellent. Okay, so Ashok Kulkarni, is there any order of study of scriptures? Well, Chinmaya Mission has given a beautiful, from the time of Gurudev Chinmayananji in 1960s or so, scheme of study. But you may modify it as per your circumstances. Suppose some text you already have studied quite well, you may skip it. There is a scheme of study. Start with Bhaja Govindam, start with Kindle Lives, Self-Unfoldment, slowly, easy text first. And it goes all the way finally to some Mandukya Upanishad and so on. So we have this so-called study groups, scheme of study. Yeah, the order is there. Order simply is start with something simple, and as you get a hold upon it, go to things that are a little more technical, little more difficult. Savita ji has a question. I'll come to Mahesh Rao later. All Ananda leads to Ekagrata, an undivided attention to the question, who am I? Therefore, leading one to Sadongi, the mind. Maybe there's some heart and body in alignment, we can experience the eternal bliss. That is my true self. All Ananda leads to Ekagrata. I'm not sure whether it is exactly that way. Ekagrata and Ananda all have to go hand in hand. But I agree with you, a lot of our sadhanas awaken us to an increased awareness of the importance of self-inquiry. Who am I? Before I go to details of the problems I have, who is it that has problems? I. Who am I? So I agree with you there. So there is an alignment of mind, heart, body, and so on, using all these sadhanas, whereby finally I am able to hold the fundamental question. And in by shaking and removing the misconceived ego, problems are solved forever. So Mahesh Rao asked something connected to Jiddu Krishnamurti. Jiddu Krishnamurti seems to advocate Vishayananda, then as he advocates living in the moment and constantly be aware. Yeah. Jiddu Krishnamurti noticed that there is a lot of confusion about this Vishayananda. People suppress, or those who are able to control a little show off that, we are doing Ekadashi Vrata. Are you doing? Maybe sometimes, some kind of holier than thou attitude. Therefore, both those who do some self-control and those who are unable to are going through some psychological problems. Let me repeat, those who are unable to do some self-control suffer guilt. Oh my God, again I overate. I didn't want to eat on Ekadashi, but I not only ate, but I overate that day and so on. They may feel guilty. And those who are going to temples, repeating Gayatri morning and evening, may feel self-righteous as though they are more virtuous. So Krishnamurti had a lens with which he was examining human psyche. And then he said, come on guys, what have you made of this self-control? Give up all this, live in attention. So it was as a consequence of his noticing that things were going, away from how it has to be, that he practically ended up as a great critic of orthodox practices. But perhaps orthodox practices are not meant to be like that, but they have become sometimes quite terrible, leading to guilt or pride or some show off, some hypocrisy and 100 things. Therefore, he came with a sledgehammer to strike at all these orthodox practices. Attention, of course, is very high. Not all are capable of that. So Andy wants to ask vocally. Again, mic, are you able to turn your mic on, Andy? Yes, your mic is on. Go ahead, Andy. Andy is silent. Maybe your mic is not working, though it is showing on. Okay. Anyone else with the raised hand? Not really.
A.R. Ganti.
Pardon?
A.R. Ganti.
Aha, yes. Oh, yes, here. His hand is raised, so I'll turn his microphone on. Is his mic on?
Yes, now it is on.
Yes, Gantiji. Can you please ask? Again, some voice like Andy here also. Maybe their microphone is not working. So I think he has asked over text also. I go to the text. A.R. Ganti, no question, he says. Okay, no question. So it is 9:30 here. And if there is any last question, we'll take. Otherwise, we'll meet again after 2 weeks, I guess. Yeah. Okay. Namaste. Goodbye for now. Hari Om.
Pranam Swamiji.
Hari Om. Hari Om.